Gary Chopp, Medal of Honor recipient, just inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. How are you feeling today?
Indescribable. Yeah, I feel really good, especially because I could share it with family and friends, old teammates, my old coach, and it's just a wonderful thing.
At the conclusion of your wrestling career, could you have, in your wildest imagination, thought you were going to be in here someday?
No, not at all, not at all. And it just never even seemed like a possibility until recently. Recent years when my good friend John Harris asked me if I was interested in applying or vying for the spot, the Medal of Courage, and so then it sounded pretty good. But I still didn't know whether to take it seriously or not. But I'm just very glad that I did. I'm glad that John nominated me, and it's given me a renewed sense of the passion that I had for the sport when I was a young man.
Can you talk a little bit about the impact that wrestling has had in your life?
Yes, it it helps all of us, all wrestlers, develop perseverance and endurance and a lot of good qualities. And that's what was happening to me. And you can feel it. You know that you pick up things from wrestling that you can't pick up very easily in other ways. And then in 1975, my parachutes didn't open. It didn't open completely, and then collapsed completely, and I fell quite a ways to the ground. And then in the following months, I really got to see what wrestling had done for me. It helped me fight on for my life, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't know if I would have had as much discipline to fight ahead, to stay alive. I was in the hospital for many months. I was very ill. Medicine wasn't what it is then. What it isn't then. Medicine is a lot better now than it was then. And I had a leaking artery, and that thing caused me a fluctuating condition through the whole 7 months I was in the hospital. And during that time, I got to find out, what I was made of and what wrestling had done for me. And it had done marvelous things for my willpower, my desire to accomplish what I want and what I need. And I needed to live, and I fought for it. And wrestling did that for me. I'm not bashful to say that. And then when I was getting better, I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I wasn't the same guy who I had been 7 months earlier, and I had to persevere in a new line of work, and it took a lot of hard work. But again, wrestling came to my rescue, and I did some things. I was able to overcome some obstacles then that really would have blocked many a person, or would have blocked me maybe if I hadn't been a wrestler. So excuse me for droning on, but I mean I can't emphasize enough what it did for me as a young man.
So do you think it's safe to say that some of the skills and things that were instilled with you in wrestling kind of carried over and helped you as a lawyer as well in your career?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't give up as easily as maybe I would have if I hadn't had the background. I was prepared maybe in ways that I wouldn't have been prepared if I hadn't been through the wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a keen competitor. That's really the big thing. Wrestling teaches you to compete, and you can't always win, but you can be a good competitor, and that's something that it taught me. Especially the work I was in, I didn't do transactional work like prepare wills and trusts. I was a trial lawyer, and litigated large property losses around the country, and so I was in the courtroom a lot, and I wasn't afraid to take on anybody in the courtroom, and I know a lot of that had to do with wrestling.
Yeah. So toughest college wrestling practice versus toughest law school course you took. How do they stack up? Any comparison?
No. No comparison at all. If I think about it, I probably could come up with some esoteric explanation, but just off the top of my head, no. I mean, there's nothing that compares with the toughest wrestling practice, and nothing that compares with the toughest law school class.
And that's fair enough. You think the wrestling might have made it a little easier, mental toughness?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to. Well, I wouldn't have been able to get through school because I went back to school and changed my major after I had my accident. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been able to succeed as I did, and then go on to law school and succeed. That's really in my mind, the big story with me. It's not that I became a lawyer; it's that I changed gears. I changed my major totally. I was going to be a police officer, start out locally, and then go into federal law enforcement. And when I didn't have a body that worked anymore, I switched gears and then went into law, legal practice, and that's what, to me, that's what the big deal here is, that I was able to switch gears and get through it in a way that I was very proud.
Did you have a moment where that pivot clicked for you, or was it a slow process of kind of figuring it out? I mean, because at some point you got to enroll in law school and make it happen.
Well, you mean, how did I come up with going to law school?
Yep.
Well, I can blame my wife on that, who was my girlfriend at the time. She was reading a story in a magazine about a judge who had been a juvenile delinquent, and he had changed his life and worked hard, and she said, "Why don't you go to law school?" I said, "Oh, come on, I haven't worked hard enough in school." She said, "You could do it." Well, anyway, that's what got me thinking, and then a few other people who I met got me thinking, and it really was with the help of others that I came about, deciding to do that. I can't take the credit for that myself.
Well, specifically, how did you find your field of law?
Of law? Well, I knew I didn't want to be sitting around the office. I knew I wanted to be in a courtroom, so I applied for strictly courtroom type jobs, at least to start out with. And I applied for my most coveted job was to work at a prosecutor's office and become an assistant prosecuting attorney, or district attorney as they're called in some states. And I got my dream job, and I had to start right out of law school. As soon as my son was born, I didn't even have a chance to study for the bar. I had to do that at night, and while I was in my new job with the prosecutor's office, and there was tremendous pressure because if I would have failed the bar exam, I would have let my family down, all this and that. But it all worked out great, with God's help and people who believed in me. It worked out really well.
Well, hey, Gary, thank you for the time. Congratulations on the Medal of Courage. Well deserved, and congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Mike.